Okay, great. So the next thing we have to do here, question 7, is asking us to find the unit cost of each of these mixing machines. So let's look at, and again, like I think I've mentioned already, we're looking at a question of direct material, direct labor, and assigning a relevant direct, I like to call it direct overheads. It's not a technical term, but you can. So first of all, let me just look at materials. Straightforward. It says it uses 35 pounds of direct materials, 35. Direct labor is 25 pounds an hour, and it tells us they do two hours, so 2 times 25, and that's 15. The problem here is what's the direct overhead? So we're told that these guys use 180,000 a year. That's what they're thinking. And the budget is 1,500 machine hours each month, so that's 1,500 times 12, which gives us 18,000. Right? So 1,500 a month times 12 months, so for the whole year, because this is for the whole year. You could have done this per month, but that's just, I think it's better to do it for the whole thing. You can see it straight away. It doesn't really matter, really. So this gives you an overhead absorption rate of £10 per machine hour. So we're absorbing based on machine hours. And you've used, they tell us in the question, 2 hours of machine time. So therefore, you have 10 times 2, which is 20. Right? Because it's based on the machine time. So you have 35 plus 50 plus 20, all nicely taking you to 105. Question 8, again, was this what we were talking about earlier on? I've meant sort of come here. The question here is that I don't have a problem with the allocation here, with the production departments. The problem is when you have this cross sharing of support. So the question here is that I need to somehow get rid of these costs. I need to do that anyway into these guys. The question is, how do I do that? And the specified order of closure really is saying, well, let's first allocate one and then shut it down and then allocate the other. So specified order of closure. Specify. The question is, in what order? And the tradition seems to be one based on the higher, just for statistical purposes, really, the one that's actually higher. What does that mean by higher? So in this case here, this is good here because they actually give us this information here. So it says here that X supports these departments in this capacity. So how does X support Y? Well, 10% of this cost here, 10% of 200 is 20, right? And Y supports X in this capacity, supports A in this capacity. So 25% of its cost here goes to Y, and then of course we could split the rest out. So it says, well, whichever one is higher, split first. So this cost here that Y supports, this evidence here that Y gives X 75 pounds of its cost and X gives it 20% means that as Y is the higher amount, we would be we would be closing down department Y first, and then we'll close down department X next. That's really it. It's really that straightforward, and so it's not a bad question actually to practice. I mean, you could use this as your revision question really because I mentioned earlier on to go through those questions. So let's do that then. So if I'm going to close down Y first, well, first of all, that means that I will take 25% of this and give it to X. So 25% of 300 is 75. So I'm going to give you 75. 50% of X is 150. I will give you 150. And the other 75% you're asking me to give to production department B. So that means the Y is now gone. All right, it's gone. So what's left? Well, there's just X, and X is 275. Because I'm splitting X between A and B, and that's X, well, department Y is gone, so I will literally split X based on this ratio of 40 to 50. This is the thing. I mean, it's still splitting it, and this is all some kind of, not guesstimation, but it's all approximation anyway. So I need to split this 275 in this ratio here, because Y doesn't exist anymore, right? So there's no 10%. Repeated distribution would have required me to kind of keep on doing this kind of splitting and splitting and resplitting, but I'm not doing that here. So I just need to take this 275, and now remember I have these already existing here. These are existing. I now need to take this 275 and split. So 4 over 9, which is, right, because that's 40 and 50, so 40% plus 50% is 90%. So the ratio is really 40 over 90. which is 4 over 9, and then 50 over 90 here for this one, right? So really splitting this 275, because I must get rid of this cost, must come in here. So now I have 4 over 9 times, of course, this times the 275, which is what I'm looking for really. So 4 over 9 times 275, 4 divided by 9 times 275 is equal to 122. So 122 here, 0.22 minus 275, and 152 here, 0.77. This question is asking me, what is the full cost for department A? 1500 plus 150 plus 122 gives me 1772. So my answer is B. So please, good question to practice. Do it again and again to make sure you're comfortable with this. Cool, great stuff.